So how do we go about getting palliative care for ourselves? What is the effort that we would put in for ourselves in case we are in that situation? This knowledge is very useful because it will help us in different ways. It will help us in case somebody in our families is suffering, we can share this knowledge with them. In case somebody who is dependent on us in terms of, their social structure, like our dhobis or milkmen or anybody in the structure, if somebody is dependent and they require this sort of services, we can educate them. You can do this. There is such a facility or such a care that you should avail it to. So the next question is, who offers and what do they do? In this context, I'd like to tell you that many people have been working a lot to see to it that there is an early integration of palliative care into the patient care. Most of the corporates, most of the hospitals are thinking on the lines of having a palliative care physician with them or medicines which are used for palliation for the patients, and have a psychologist or have a social worker in their team. So this is early integration of palliative care into the treatment, right from the diagnosis. Along with the physician, a psychologist is involved, a social worker is involved. Then it's an early integration into the treatment of the disease. But it's not that best case scenario presently. People are working towards it. So in a palliative care setup, in a palliative care facility like ours, who all offer this particular care? Who all are part of it? It's a medical care. Basically, it starts with people come to us not because we have psychologists here, not because we have social workers here, or not because it's free here. They come here because they want help to manage their pain, help us to manage their symptoms. So they relate to this, but any type of palliative care with palliative medicine. They think that palliative care is palliative medicine. That's the reason they're walking into these sort of centers. That's the reason they want to avail it. So when they come, actually, physicians' first interaction is they interact with the patient, then they address the physical issues. Once the physical issues are resolved, then they will look into other aspects. Then they will open up with other aspects about themselves. Like then they will talk about how the journey with the disease has impacted them, on their spiritual level, how it has changed their family dynamics, how it has changed their, emotional status. All these things they'll start discussing. So physicians are there with us. We have spiritual counselors are there. There are medical counselors. We have social workers are there who talk to these patients. And we have bedside assistants who help the patients change clothes and change diapers with their basic needs. And we have nurses. Mainly it's care means generally it's nursing care. Nursing care is nothing but wherein the patient is administered with different medications or certain procedures are done, cleaning their wound and things like that, and they're volunteers. And most importantly, along with the patient, we deal with family and friends also, or teammates here. So you might ask me, how does it mean? How does it translate to? When a person is suffering, he wants his family and friends to be close by. He wants them to assist him or her to deal with the disease, like helping him to take him to go out into the garden, or help him share his story of his life, or help him understand how it's impacting him. So family and friends are equal part of palliative care team. We do not say that family is immediately separated from the patient because he's taking palliative care. Family and friends are an integral part of palliative care team for any patient. And there might be so many other specialties, like there are few palliative care centers who might offer physiotherapy for their patients, alternate for their patients, music therapy, art therapy. There are so many alternate ways, diversion techniques and diversion workshops that happen. So any of those people who are trying their best, either in the form of a healthcare professional or a volunteer, to alleviate the pain of the patient or alleviate the emotional suffering of the patient, all of them constitute palliative care team. What serious illnesses are we talking about? If you can see the statistics here, I just put this picture because cancer cases are on a rise. These numbers actually scare us. The projection for 2025 is actually very scary. So what other serious illnesses are we talking about here? Apart from cancer, we're talking about heart diseases, fibrosis, dementia, end-stage liver diseases, kidney failures, lung diseases, Parkinson's, stroke, and many such illnesses. Most of the other taboo that is attached to palliative care is that palliative care is just for cancer patients. It's not for any other patient. But it is part true because the symptom burden or the pain burden for the cancer patients is very high compared to other chronic illnesses. That is the reason there is a taboo or a misunderstanding about palliative care. But palliative care centers, palliative care services can be availed by anybody suffering with any type of chronic illnesses. Most of the chronic illnesses might not need hospitalization or institutionalization. But cancer, the burden of pain and symptoms is so high that it might result in some sort of institutionalization for the patient. So we are dealing with palliative care deals with many serious illnesses like the ones that I've mentioned on the slide. So how exactly? Okay, palliative care is offered. So how do we go about it? If I'm diagnosed with a disease, I know that I need to go to this particular specialist. I'll make my inquiries. I'll go to a particular hospital of my choice. I'll go to a specialist of my choice and follow his advice. So how do we go about getting palliative care for ourselves? What is the effort that we would put in for ourselves in case we are in that situation? This knowledge is very useful because it will help us in different ways. It will help us in case somebody in our families is suffering, we can share this knowledge with them. In case somebody who is dependent on us in terms of, their social structure, like our dhobis or milkmen or anybody in the structure, if somebody is dependent and they require this sort of services, we can educate them. You can do this. There is such a facility or such a care that you should avail it to lower your burdens. So how do we even do it? So how we do it is, in a hospital, first we need to know if there is a palliative care department in that particular hospital. If it is there, we need to approach that particular palliative care department. It is not a very common scenario presently in India. But what we can do is we can find out, we can Google, we can find out if there are any palliative care centers in our hometown. Google shows, it does show. So first find out what are the services. So go to them. And what do we do when we go to them? We have to know the symptoms that are affecting the patients. First understand, list out all the symptoms, including the pain. What sort of pain is he experiencing? What sort of symptoms that person is experiencing? List out all the things that are affecting his activities of daily living. Like he's not able to walk. He's not able to go to the toilet. He's not able to sleep. He's not able to talk. So activities of daily living, what we do, what we take for granted, we breathe by ourselves. We are not even aware that we are breathing. We assume that we take for granted that we can talk. So for certain people, if they cannot afford to take it for granted because of the disease. So whatever activities that are affecting their daily living, then you have to list out and then take the list to the palliative care department. And also take the list of medicines that the patient is using. What are the medicines that he is using presently and what are the doses? So we have to have the complete information about the patient on hand. And usually it is better if a family or a family member or a friend accompanies the patient or goes by. Some people go by themselves to the palliative care department and talk with the physician. And there is an interesting phrase here like advanced directives. Advanced directives or life living wills. What we are talking about is here a patient's wishes of how he needs to be treated in case the disease progresses and he is not in a position to express his needs and wishes and preferences. So we need to understand if there are any advanced directives like that in place. Some people few people when they come to us, they tell us that we don't want any tubes coming in and out of our body. You just leave us alone. If I'm not able to take food through my mouth, I don't want any other alternate arrangement. So they're very specific. They're very specific that they express to their family members that in case I'm sick, please do not put me in ICU. No serious, treatments for me. So they have specific requirements and preferences. So we have to know what the preferences are for the patient. And when we're talking about patient autonomy, we should be aware of all these things and we need to honor them. So we need to know as a palliative, if there is a person is suffering from a disease, a chronic illness, then we need to understand if he has any advanced directives. In India, it seeps into our social wishes also, in the sense that they would tell us that if something happens, I should be cremated next to my spouse in so and so village in my farmland or things like that. Or they would tell that according to this particular religion, please do the final rites. So they have so many wishes and preferences that need to be followed in case the patient is not able to express his own preferences. So these are the advanced directives, mostly in the context of medicine or treatments that we discuss, but it seeps into many social issues also. We need to be aware of all these things. And what one can expect after a visit to the palliative care team. It can be part of their curative treatment, or it can be after their treatment. In case they're suffering from the disease and the disease has not responded to the treatment, so how is it impacting their lives? So if they want to come to a palliative care team, they can discuss the impacts of the side effects of the treatment and get help from the palliative care team. It's very, very essential, because if we do not address these sort of issues, people might stop the treatment. Even if the patient has a chance of cure, he will let go of the chance because he's suffering from the symptom burden and pain burden. He doesn't want to go through it. He says, okay, let me die. I don't care. This is better. Dying is better than suffering like this. So we have to help people take a decision to go to palliative care or avail palliative care so that they can stick with the treatment. Probably he has a chance for cure. And you'll also get to know what are all the resources that are available in the society. What all are there for him to avail so that it will be helpful for him on social level. There might be some free ambulances attached to hospitals. He can avail it if he's not able to foot the bill for an ambulance. Probably an NGO is attached to the hospitals wherein they can support the child's education. There might be an NGO attached to a facility or a hospital which supports funerals. So they will get to know what are all the resources that are available in their own community, in the society, to support them through the journey of the treatment or after the treatment too. And sometimes many of the families and patients want to know what are the pros and cons of each treatment that is available for them. Many chronic illnesses have many treatment plans, many treatment options. When these treatment options are availed, it's patient's right to know what is the benefit from that particular treatment and what is the burden he's going to face because of that particular treatment. If the patient is aware, he will take a very informed decision. It's the patient's right. We cannot say that this particular treatment works for 30% of the people. So let's try it out. That's the easy way out for any situation. So we need to encourage the patient to have full information about the pros and cons of each treatment. Many a times people come to palliative care centers to understand, should we go ahead with this particular option or not? So we need to discuss with the medical team and arrive at how it's going to benefit him and how it's going to cause some sort of discomfort or anything like that. We need to address this particular issue from the social angle also. Just because an option is available, we cannot assume that the family can afford it. Sometimes money is a big thing. Probably not for many of us, but many people who are coming from rural areas or most of our country lives under poverty line, So we need to understand what is their financial structure, what is their family support. We need to understand all that when we arrive at a consensus, when we help them out to take a proper decision about the treatment options. And we should always, whenever we're doing any of these things, we have to keep, especially depending upon their religion and their value systems and whatever their goals are, we have to keep all those things in our mind when we advise the patient or we help them take the right decision. We have to be in line with their personal values. We have to be in line with their goals. This is very, very essential because it is about patient autonomy, whatever he wants as per his wishes.